Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing today? Hopefully you all can hear me. I think you can. I see my mic moving, which means I did it right this time. Today we're doing mac and cheese, and welcome to the 20th Cook Along Live. So this is kind of a milestone. Been doing this for 20 weeks. So since quarantine started, or shelter in place started, that's kind of what got this in motion. And I've been having a blast. One of my favorite things to do is to have people over and cook for them and entertain, and this has given me kind of a virtual way to be able to do that. So thank you all for the support and for being interested enough to come and watch me cook once a week. Today, if you didn't already know, we're doing macaroni and cheese. We're also going to do some green beans, garlic green beans, and should be fun. Let's get started. First thing that I want you guys to do is go ahead and get your water boiling for your macaroni. And also set your oven to 350 Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is in Celsius, or if it's a gas if you're in Europe. I'm not sure what that is, but we're gonna go ahead and get our water boiling, and we're gonna get our macaroni in. I'm just using some plain elbows. You can pretty much use whatever you want that you think is gonna hold cheese well, and just going with a classic here. Now my package says cook it for 5 minutes. I'm gonna cook it for 4 minutes. Hey Siri, set a timer for 4 minutes.
4 minutes, starting now.
I'm just going to give it a stir to make sure that the noodles don't stick together. And then I'll stir it a couple of times as we go as well. So if you haven't already, go ahead and get your cheese grated. It's 2 cups of the Gruyere and 4 cups of the cheddar. If you want, you can also add mozzarella, which is a great melty cheese. Fontina works really well. I like to sometimes top it with some Stilton, which is like a blue cheese. I really love the flavor of blue cheese, so I will add it to my macaroni and cheese. And my water level is a bit high, so what I'm going to do is just grab a little cup. Actually, you know what? I'm going to grab one of these ladles back here. And I'm just going to get rid of some of this water off the top of the macaroni. That way it doesn't boil over. I'll just put that in this for now. And then I will pour this out. It's kind of a myth that you need to have like gallons and gallons of water for your macaroni. As long as it's covered and it's able to boil, you're good. Set you back there. And then it's also kind of a myth that you need it to go at a rolling boil. I'm actually going to turn this back down. As long as it's simmering, you're good. Now a rolling boil is more likely to kind of foam over, as you can kind of see it starting to do here. Unless you constantly keep some motion. Even then it might go. So I like to just kind of turn it down to a nice lively simmer, and then just stir it a couple of times to make sure that it doesn't stick together. Now again, at this point, if you haven't grated your cheese yet, go ahead and get it grated while you're waiting on your macaroni to cook. And make sure you got your oven set to 350 degrees so that it can start preheating for you. So we've got all of our stuff measured as well. So I've got my spices here. I've got some smoked paprika, cayenne pepper, regular black pepper, and salt. And then I've got about a half cup of flour. And then in a different pot, I have about a half cup of butter. And that's going to be our next step, getting this pot on. And we're going to start making a roux, which is basically a flour-based paste. And to that, we're going to add our cream. So mac and cheese is actually really like one of the first dishes that I really started learning how to do was macaroni and cheese, and I started with, you know, just the basic Kraft macaroni and cheese box. Maybe not the best quality, however, it was super simple and I could make a mean box of mac and cheese. So when I started actually cooking for real, I really kind of wanted to see how I could kind of upgrade what Kraft has done. Not that it was very hard to upgrade that, although it still does have a special place in my heart. You know, there's still that little nostalgic feeling when you make a box of macaroni and cheese. There's another company called Annie's that makes a really good boxed mac and cheese as well. So again, I'm just going to kind of give this a stir, make sure that nothing's sticking together. Hey Siri, stop the timer. Cool, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to drain the macaroni. And then that stainless steel bowl that I had that I kind of pulled the water out of, I've already moved the water out of it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour the macaroni right into that. Switch back over here. Like so. And I'm going to stir in a little bit of regular olive oil. And what the olive oil is going to do is just kind of help keep the macaroni from sticking, because it is going to be sitting for a little while we make our cheese sauce. I'd say maybe a tablespoon of olive oil, just enough to kind of coat everything. And I don't know if you guys can see it up there on the camera or not, but it gives the macaroni a sheen once it's coated. So that's kind of what we want. I'm just going to set that to the side for now. Let me get my colander out of the way. And I'm going to get the rest of the macaroni off of the bottom here. And into the bowl with the rest. 100% Hobbit. Let me get some rice going. We'll cook some rice, we'll drain it, and then we'll rinse it. If you guys don't understand that reference, there was a YouTube video BBC put together. Talented young lady making some fried rice, and she cooks rice in a bowl. She puts way too much water in. When it's done, she pours out the water through a strainer like that, and then rinses the rice off, and the internet exploded because that's not a really traditional way to cook rice. And so there was also a really funny YouTube channel, Uncle Roger, I think is his name. He's a pretty funny dude. Starts making fun of her. He's Asian, and he says nobody pours out the rice. You just let it absorb the water, or just use a rice cooker, which is pretty funny. So we're gonna get our butter going in this larger bowl, and we're just gonna kind of melt it. We don't want to brown it, so we want to do it at like a medium-low heat. And then we're gonna pour in our ½ cup of flour. And what that's going to do is it's going to make a roux, which is basically, like I said earlier, a flour paste, kind of. And then to that, we're going to add our milk. And what that does is it serves as a thickener, and also gives the sauce the body that it needs, so it's not just runny. We'll just go ahead and keep it moving, because then you're exposing more of it to heat, and it will melt quicker. Yeah, Uncle Roger. You guys should definitely go and look at YouTube and search for Uncle Roger rice. And I'm sure you'll find that video. It's hilarious. Alrighty then. So the butter's melted, it's starting to bubble, that's fine. We're just gonna go ahead and pour our flour in. And then we're just going to mix it in like so. So it doesn't have to be butter, although butter is traditional. It really just has to be any kind of a fat. So butter, some kind of an oil, ghee would work too. And then with this, we're going to keep the heat on low and just make sure that it's all mixed in. And now we're going to start adding our 1½ cups of milk to this. Now I like to add it just kind of slowly as I whisk it in to the roux. And you'll notice that the roux is going to get kind of clumpy. But what you're doing is now you're hydrating the fat and the flour. And what will end up happening is this will mix smoothly, so you won't get grainy sauce. And I like to start with the milk like this and then move on to the half and half. You'll notice that now this kind of resembles mashed potatoes, yet it is smooth. It's not, shouldn't be lumpy. Mine's not lumpy. It's almost looking like a frosting. Now we'll just start adding our half and half, same way. There we go. Make sure we scrape down anything that's stuck to the sides. Hey, Dad, what's up, man? You guys look like you're having fun off in whatever part of the world you're in. All right, so I'm just going to kind of let that simmer, come up to a simmer. Maybe turn it up to medium-high instead of just medium. Let this simmer. Once it starts kind of simmering, we're going to let it cook down. It's going to get thicker almost until it looks like a condensed soup. Not super thick, but thick enough that it looks like you could add water to it. It shouldn't take too long, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And while we're waiting for that, have a sip of beer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to my macaroni, just kind of give it a stir. You'll notice that it is sticking together despite your best efforts, which is why we're just going to keep it moving. There we go. What's everybody's plans for this week? Anything fun? Anything coming up? How about this past week? You guys have a good week? Mine was pretty good. Can't complain. Made some awesome food. Of course, a test batch of mac and cheese, which is always tasty. Are you all watching anything interesting on Netflix or Disney Plus or any of the other streaming services? I just finished a series called Castlevania on Netflix, really good. Kind of a vampire setting. And of course, while you're waiting for your milk to start simmering and thickening up, it's always a good idea to, sample the cheese. Make sure it's not going bad on you while it's sitting out on the cutting board. You'll notice that I have it in 3 piles. And essentially what I did was after I grated it, I mixed it all together, dumped it out in 1 pile, split it in half. Half of it is going to go into the sauce, and the other half is for like a middle layer of cheese in the mac and cheese and a top layer of cheese on the mac and cheese. And of course, if you have mozzarella or anything, just mix all of the cheeses together and then separate them like this. It just keeps it easier for you to grab and go. What else? I'm using some cayenne to give it a little bit of a kick. I know some people really like to use jalapenos in their mac and cheese. I do like the idea of it, however, I'm not doing that today. I'm just going to focus on kind of a base recipe, and then you all can move on from there. All right, so my cream sauce here never really started simmering, however, it has thickened up to what I like. Yes, nice and creamy, nice and thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and start adding my cheese. I'm gonna add it in about, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 steps. Basically just sprinkle in some cheese, whisk it, let it melt, and then repeat until your large pile is completely integrated. Ooh, nice. Yep, Mom, pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to the store, grabbing ingredients, staying home. Now at this point, you can actually turn your sauce down to either medium-low or turn it completely off. The residual heat should melt the cheese. Oh, and there we go, now it starts bubbling. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it off. The sauce is gonna be hot enough to melt the cheese. If it's not, you can always kick it back on for a second, but you shouldn't have any problems here. There we are. The last little bit of cheese here we'll get in. And now at this point, we are going to add our seasonings. So we've got our tablespoon of salt, half tablespoon or teaspoon of pepper. I'm using smoked paprika because I like the smoky flavor that it gives it. And cayenne pepper. We're just gonna go ahead and drop those in. Give them a mix. Nice and smoky. All right. I'm going to taste this and just make sure that it's seasoned enough. And it is. Very tasty. Yep, I'm definitely doing a lot of gardening. This Tuesday, I'm going to be making tacos, and my salsa will be all from my garden, except the cilantro. Everything except for the cilantro will be from my garden. Cool, so we've got our sauce mixed and done. We're gonna go ahead and just break up our macaroni again, just make sure that it's not sticking together. I'm using a slotted spoon, so I'm just making sure that all of the mac is not sticking to the spoon. We're gonna go ahead and pour our sauce into the macaroni bowl. Like so. And then we're going to give this a mix. Now be gentle with this because, especially if your macaroni is kind of globbing together a little bit, it's going to be pushing some really hot cheese mixture all around and might kind of come up and over the edge, so just be careful. There we go. All right, now you have the option. I have a nice large Dutch oven here that I can just re-pour this back into to throw in the oven. Or if you have a 13x9 baking dish or some other, piece of stoneware that you want to use, get some butter and kind of rub the inside to coat it, and then that will keep it from sticking in the future. For me, I think I am just going to pour half of my macaroni back into here. Just kind of level it off. Like so. And then we're going to put half of our cheese, just sprinkle it over the top of this layer. And by half of the cheese, I mean one of the remaining piles. You've already used half the cheese to make the sauce. Now we're adding more cheese to give it a nice little cheesy layer. Make it as even as you can. As you can tell, this is a super, super healthy dish. I'll pour the rest of the macaroni over the top of this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's all gonna melt together anyway. There we go. Let me grab my spatula. Just get as much of this in as I can. Perfect. Now what I'll do is just kind of level it out a bit. Like so. Now we'll sprinkle in the rest of our cheese. Now what I probably could have done with this is I probably could have done 3 layers. Probably could have done a layer down at the bottom, added a layer of cheese, a layer for like a middle layer, added a layer of cheese, and then a 3rd layer, and added this final bit of cheese. But you know what? I'm not going to complain. I think this is going to taste the exact same, however I did it. That was just be an option. Nice, cilantro in the Aero Garden. I just never planted any this year. I don't know why. I've got a bunch of other herbs, just no cilantro. Didn't think about it. Cool, cool. All right, so if you want to level this up just a bit, and give me a second because I'm just going to clean off the side here, scrape off some cheese from the side. If you like crunchy mac and cheese, this is where the Panko Bread Crumbs that I told you come into play. So I'm going to go and grab my box of Panko. And on top of the cheese layer, you're just going to put a little bit of a dusting of the breadcrumbs. And what's going to happen is as the cheese melts, it's just going to make the breadcrumbs kind of stick into that top layer of the mac and cheese. And you can make this as thick or as thin as you like. You can even do half and half if you like crunchy and maybe a significant other doesn't, or you're making it for friends and some people like crunchy and some people don't. You can just do a half and half. I'm gonna add a pretty good layer here of breadcrumbs. Just make sure it's as even as I can get. Cool. Yeah, James, she was also using a metal spoon on a nonstick pan. It was pretty fun. All right, so I'm gonna put this in the oven at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. Then we're gonna broil it for another 5 minutes. Cool, so now that we're done with that, we can move on to our garlic green beans. Now the green beans are super easy. What we're gonna do is we're gonna reuse our colander, and we're going to reuse our macaroni pot that we were boiling stuff in. We're going to give these guys a quick blanch. So we'll put him back on here, we'll get him started to boil. And while we're waiting on him to kind of come up to temperature, we will clean off our cutting board. Now in the ingredients list I said have a bunch of green beans that are already trimmed, and what all I mean by trimmed is take off the stem part, so the side on the back that has the stem sticking off. If you just kind of clip off the end, that's really all you need to do. I've already gone ahead and washed these guys, and I've got all of my ingredients here on this plate. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna get these guys blanched, and then we've got some aromatics that we'll get going. So while we're waiting on the water to come up, we'll also go ahead and slice our garlic and slice our shallots. Now really this comes down to how much flavor you like, how much garlic flavor, or how much onion flavor you like. And the reason I'm using shallots is just because they're small. You're not, you know, cutting a quarter of an onion. Just works out a little bit better. I'm going to take off the kind of dry end of both of these shallots. I'm going to give it a couple of cuts horizontally. I don't need these to be super thin. Maybe a quarter of an inch. And then I'll give it just a cut about 3/4 of the way this way. Hey, stop it. Dog going nuts for no reason. And then we'll just cut this guy down. And then right here on the cutting board, I can eyeball, hey, you know, is this going to be enough for my onions? Or, I'm sorry, for my green beans? And I think I want to cut the second one, so I'll do the exact same thing. Just cut down into about 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch. They don't need to be super small. There we go. And we'll do the same thing across this way. There we go. That looks like a good pile of shallots. And then for the onions, same thing. Basically just going to cut it the long way first, like this. Down about halfway. Make a couple of cuts along the length of it. And then just give it a nice dice. And again, these don't have to be super fine. I like them to be a little bit thicker, just so you can find them when you're actually eating the green beans. There we go, 2. And yeah, I think I want the third one. I like garlic. Hey! Oh, there goes the third one. No, dog, that's not for you. Let me go grab a third one. Just so happens that one of these cloves popped off and I wasn't using it. So it's sitting in my garlic caddy, ready to go. Smash it down a bit to get the skin off, and we'll just do the exact same thing. Again, I'm not super worried about how big or small these are. And that looks good. Now, as for the water, we do want to get some salt in here because we do want to season our green beans while they're cooking. So I'm going to put in probably, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of salt. You want the water to taste a little bit salty, but not so salty that you can't, you know, enjoy it. 100%, Campbell. You can eat macaroni and cheese whenever you'd like. Makes great next day food. So if you've had mac and cheese and, you know, now it's the day after and you're looking for a snack for breakfast or lunch or dinner, 100%. All right, so we're right now just waiting for our water to kind of come up to the boil. I've got the mac and cheese in there. It's been in there for about, I don't know, 5 minutes-ish. I'll let it go for another 10 or so minutes, and then I will turn on the broiler. And that's just to get the crust on the panko to go, get brown. Water is almost getting to the boil. Just cover it and help it along here. So fun fact, garlic green beans, many years ago when I got married for the first time, my bachelor party was at a really nice restaurant in downtown Danville called Peasant and the Pear, and my look at that boiling. My groomsmen were awesome enough to figure out how to get me to basically be like a guest chef there for a lunch. And so I got to cook lunch, made some ahi, made some pizzas, I think, and then also made some garlic green beans. And it was a lot of fun to do that. So we're gonna toss our beans into the water. Just kind of keep them going, and they're basically just gonna be in here for a minute, 2 minutes maybe. We're not trying to cook them all the way through. What we're doing is, it's called blanching. You're basically giving them a real quick cook, and then we're draining them and rinsing them off real quick to cool them down so they stop cooking. Then you start sauteing them. That way, they're already kind of on the way to being cooked. You don't have to wait so long to cook them all the way through. They'll still be warm when they hit the pan, essentially. And helps them keep their color, helps it so that you're not totally scorching the outside of them before they're fully cooked through. And it's a really, really cool way to do this. I do this with Brussels sprouts too. Same exact thing. And since we've already seasoned the water, you're actually also getting some salt into the beans to give them a little bit of flavor. Hey, Samantha, how's it going? Nice to see you. Trust the kids are doing well. Cat looks good. Always fun to see your posts on Facebook. And I totally miss the old days. All right, let me go to sync cam real quick. We're just gonna give these guys a rinse. This is not sacrilege like rinsing rice is. Ideally, I'd have a big bowl of ice water sitting by that I can just dump these into, but I don't, so that's why I'm just giving them a quick rinse. And then I like to grab one of the smaller ones and just, perfect. Make sure it's good to go. Now we grab our pan, get him going on high. You'll notice the beans are still steaming, which is fine. That's exactly what you want. Still needs some salt, which is another reason we gave it a taste. So as I'm cooking them in here, I'll just make sure to season them. I've also got some red pepper flakes for some spice. If you don't like spice, don't use the red pepper flakes. And then butter for the end. So we're gonna actually start the pan off with a little bit of regular olive oil. Say maybe a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons or so. Coat the bottom of the pan here. And we really want to make sure that that gets nice and warm. I'm going to take a couple of these shallots and just drop them in. I'm going to wait until that starts sizzling. You don't want to put anything in there to actually cook it until that's sizzling. I'm going to take a quick peek at my macaroni. Ooh, that looks good. The cheese is all melty. Yum. Looking forward to that. Cool, so he's dancing around. We can see that he's, sizzling and getting a little bit of a dance party going on over there. We'll drop in the rest of our shallots. Now the shallots are raw. We just diced them. The beans are partially cooked or blanched. And the garlic only takes like 30 seconds to cook. So we're going to start with the shallots because they're going to take a little bit of time to soften and get cooked. We're going to go ahead and get them seasoned while we're waiting. Just a small pinch of salt. And we'll actually see that might actually carry us over into the beans. We might not need to season too much. Get some black pepper in there, freshly ground, of course. Now we're really just going to kind of leave these guys going until they kind of get a little bit translucent and soft. Then we're going to toss the garlic in for maybe 30 seconds. And then we're going to toss our green beans in. And they're really only going to need another minute or 2 minutes. And they'll be ready. They should be nice and kind of seared on the outside, but not mushy. and not burned. And we don't want to burn the shallots either, which is why I'm keeping them moving, just until they kind of soften and go translucent. They are starting to get a little bit brown around the edges, so what I'm going to do is get my garlic in now. There we go. Same story. Mix it around. Make sure that they all kind of separate if you've chopped them. There we are. Now while I'm letting that go, I'm going to turn my broiler on to high. And then by the time we're done with our green beans, the broiling should be done and we should be ready to plate up. This is looking good. It smells amazing. You can always add other spices to this if you'd like. So if you want to do like thyme or rosemary or anything like that and add those to your beans, this is the time right now before you throw your beans in. I am going to red pepper flake it, like so. And what's happening is the oil is actually releasing some of the dried flavors and aromatics in the pepper or whatever other spices you put in here, and it just flavors the oil. And then when you throw your beans in and they cook, they kind of infuse with that flavor. Really, really neat trick. All right, everything in there is kind of starting to get kind of roasty. So in with my green beans. And they've still got a little bit of water from being blanched and rinsed. So we'll go ahead and toss them in here. Nice and warm, nice and hot, mixed in with all of the rest of everything. And I'm going to try and keep them in one layer and in contact with the surface of the pan. That way they get a little bit of color on them. Let those guys sit for about a minute. Hey Amanda, how's it going? Good to see you. Hope things are well. We'll let those guys go. I'm going to add a little bit more salt. Just kind of a dusting on top of the beans. I think I'm okay on the pepper. Give them a toss, get them all over the place. You'll notice that some of the sides are getting kind of scorched, which is what you want. A little bit of that searing, which is perfect. And they're keeping their color. They're staying nice and bright green, which is also exactly what you want. We can turn this off, let it kind of pause. We will put in our butter. And the residual heat in the pan will actually melt the butter. Kind of stir them around in the pan there. Now I like to add a drizzle of balsamic. Make sure you turn the heat off before you add this because it will actually scorch. But the residual heat just makes it nice and sweet. Nice! Family dinners are awesome. These are my family dinners for now. Cook along with y'all. All right, awesome, awesome. Our green beans are done. I'm gonna take this guy off and set him on the cutting board. And let's see what our mac and cheese looks like. Ooh, that looks good. Now, I need to find where I put my pot holders. because I don't think I want to touch that cast iron pan that's been in a 350-degree oven and now under a broiler with my bare hands. Since I can't find my pot holders, I will just make some poor man's pot holders with my tea towels. I'll do this. Same thing on this side. And let's see if we don't burn ourselves. Ooh, there we go. Delicious mac and cheese. Oven is off. Hot plate is off. And that looks delicious. Let me grab a plate here. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plate up the green beans first, because I know that the mac and cheese is going to be gooey. And what I'm going to try and do is kind of line these guys up in a single, like a single row, I guess, on the spoon. And then that way when they hit the plate, they line up in a nice orderly fashion, like so. And ready. There we are. Now, get some of this extra. Some of these bits. You can 100% use bacon on this too. So if you want to add bacon to your green beans, you can use bacon instead of the oil at the beginning, or pancetta or something like that, and you'll have bacon garlic green beans. I'm going to add some of my shallots and garlic and hot pepper flakes here right on top. That sauce tastes delicious. Cool, so I can actually move this. Now you notice on my plate, you know, some of these little bits kind of go everywhere, and that's why I did that before doing my macaroni, because now when I put the macaroni and cheese on here, it's going to cover any imperfections on the plate and make it look that much better. Whew, can you guys hear that? Nice and crispy surface. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but got a nice crispy mac and cheese here. We'll go ahead and crack through the surface. Maybe cut out something like so. Scoop underneath it. I'm remembering not to grab this plate. There we go. Let me do that. You guys can see how rich and creamy this mac and cheese is. We'll get that nice out on the plate like so. And I might scoop out just a bit more here and just kind of layer it around the back like that. Oh my goodness. Sorry, this is not going to help you lose the quarantine 15. However, you will enjoy your evening. Guarantee you that. So, obviously this is my own plate, which is why I'm licking my fingers. I would not recommend you do that if you have guests over. They might not appreciate it. But what I'm going to do, just kind of clean up the edge here. Get some of that extra cheese off. I'll switch back to the food view. And there we go. Yummy mac and cheese. garlic green beans. Done. Guess I can do something like that. And then you can see that. How awesome does that look? And then I will switch to host camera and present it to you like so. And the camera's not focusing, but we can't win all of the things. That looks amazing. Cool. How many of y'all cooked along with me tonight or plan on making this in the future? Because this is going to be an incredible meal. You guys are going to have to bear with me because I'm going to do my photo for Instagram here before I dig in and tell you how it tastes, because I don't want to scoop out another spoon of this just for a photo. Nope. Camera, and there we go. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, you could use a knife if you want to eat the green beans. I just kind of grab them and eat them like a monster. Totally up to you. I'm also, eating alone, and that's probably why I'm eating alone. Just kidding. But yeah, I'll take a bite here. Hey, Gregory, how's it going, man? Yeah, Kraft mac and cheese ain't got nothing on this. This is absolutely super delicious. Nice and creamy. It's got the nice cheese crust on top. This recipe is a keeper. I add a little bit of that cayenne, so it's got a little bit of a kick. That is fantastic. And then the green beans, they still have a little bit of bite to them, so they're still kind of al dente, which is perfect. Not raw, but they still have that crispiness. They're not like just gross and mushy. Also delicious. Get that kind of bite from the garlic, a little bit of a mellow garlic flavor. The red pepper flakes give it a little bit of a kick too, not too much. And the shallots give it that yummy kind of onion umami flavor that you get. And then the balsamic just adds that little touch of sweetness. All in all, a success. I'm super happy. Hey, if you guys enjoyed the show, hopefully you guys give this a try. Really easy to put together. Most of it is just kind of waiting for things to boil or reheat. Making the sauce is super simple. Really, the only difficult thing, and it's not even really that difficult, is the cleanup. Just because you have, gooey cheese melted to the inside of the Dutch oven, or if you are using a 13x9, if you greased it, it's not even going to be an issue. It's just going to come right out. I didn't grease mine. I just went ahead and threw it in the oven. But this is amazing. So hopefully I'll give it a try. Hopefully, thank you for joining me for episode 20. This is the 20th episode, kind of a milestone. Once a week for 20 weeks we've been doing this. And looking forward to the next one. I'm thinking I'm going to do hot wings next week. Just with some pre-made sauces, but kind of go over how to make a good chicken wing. So we'll see. We'll see if that's what I end up doing. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and leave them on the video, and I'll take a look. If it's not too long of a process, I'm still kind of working out the logistics on how to do something that's long form in this format. But we'll see where we can get something more complicated going on. Anyway, everybody, hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Sunday. Happy August. It is now August. And next week, I will see you again for another Cook Along Live. Have a great night. Bye.